Good morning, student. Today I'll explain you the second part, The Black Aeroplane by Frederick Forsyth of the chapter Two Stories About Flying. About the author. Frederick Forsyth was born on 25th August 1938 in Ashford, Kent, England. He joined the RAF and became a jet fighter pilot. He became a journalist and joined the BBC in 1965, where he served as an assistant diplomatic correspondent. He is the best known for thrillers such as The Day of the Jackal, The Odessa File, The Fourth Protocol, The Dogs of War, etc. This is a mysterious story. The writer was flying his Dakota aeroplane. He was on his way to England to enjoy his holiday. Suddenly, he was caught in big clouds and he lost his way due to storm. So, this was the introduction of the chapter. Now, students, I'll explain you the entire chapter line by line. And as we know, the narrator is a pilot who is going to England to spend his holiday. So, the moon was coming up in the east behind me. The star was shining in the clear sky above me. So, it was the night time, and the pilot was flying to his hometown to England, and the sky is clear, and the stars were shining. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. It was a starry night. There was no any cloud in the sky. I was happy to be I was happy to be alone high up above the sleeping countryside. And the narrator was very happy because he was going to his home. And he was also happy that he was alone high up in the sleeping countryside. The sleeping countryside meant it was a night time, and the countryside means rural area, and he was flying over the rural area during the night. I was flying my old Dakota aeroplane over France back to England, and he was flying his old Dakota. Dakota is model of a model of aeroplane which he was flying. I was dreaming of my holiday and looking forward to being with my family. And the pilot, the narrator, was dreaming about his holiday and looking forward to spend his time with his family. I looked at my watch 1:30 in the morning, and when he looked at his watch, and it was 1:30 in the morning. I should call Paris Control soon, I thought as I looked down past the nose of the aeroplane. When the narrator looked down past the nose of the aeroplane, he thought that he should call Paris Control. I saw the light of a big city in front of me. He saw the lights of big city. He found himself near the big city. I switched on the radio and said. Then he switched on the radio and conveyed the message, Paris Control Dakota DS088 here. So he was giving the message to the Paris Control by some code that is DS088. That was the code of his plane. Can you hear me? I'm on my way to England. Over. So he conveyed the message whether they are getting him. He was on his way to England. A voice from the radio answered me immediately. So immediately he got the response from the Paris control. DS088, I can hear you. You ought to turn 12-degree west now. DS088 over. And he got the instruction that he had to turn 12-degree west then. I checked the map and the compass switched over to my second and the last fuel tank. And he checked the map and the compass. Compass is an instrument containing a magnetized pointer which shows the directions. And he turned to his second and the last fuel tank. The turn Dakota 12-degree west towards England. I will be in time for breakfast, I thought. And he was thinking that he'll be reached to his home at the breakfast time and he'll have his breakfast with his family. I thought a good big English breakfast, and he was dreaming about a big English breakfast. Everything was going well. It was an easy flight. Everything was fine. The weather was fine. The pilot was getting the proper instruction from the Paris control, and it was an easy flight. Paris was about 150 kilometers behind me when I saw the clouds, storm clouds. When he had moved 150 kilometers far from the Paris, he saw the clouds, stormy clouds. They were huge. They looked like black mountains standing in front of me across the sky. And those clouds were huge and looked black like a black mountains. They were approaching him towards across the sky. I knew I could not fly up and over them. And the narrator, the pilot, knew that he could not fly above the over the clouds. And I did not have enough fuel to fly around them to the north or south. And he did not have much fuel, so he can fly around them to the north or south. I ought to go back to Paris, I thought. And he thought he must go to Paris, but I wanted to get home. I wanted that breakfast. But he wanted to go his home, and he wanted to have the breakfast, English breakfast. I'll take the risk, I thought, and flew that old Dakota straight into the storm. So the narrator thought that he would take the risk, and he decided, and he flew that old Dakota straight into the storm. Inside the clouds, everything was suddenly black. It was impossible to see anything outside the aeroplane. So, students, inside the clouds, when he entered into the clouds, everything was black. It was impossible to see anything outside the aeroplane. He could not see anything from his plane. He could not see the way where he had to go. The old aeroplane jumped and twisted in the air, and his aeroplane started jumping and twisting in the air. I looked at the compass. I could not believe. And he looked at the compass to find the direction, and he could not believe. I could not believe in my eyes. The compass was turning round and round, and he could not believe his eyes. He found that compass was also turning round and round. It was not showing any direction. It was dead. It would not work. The other instruments were suddenly dead too. I tried the radio. So afterwards, the compass stopped working, and as well as the other instrument also stopped working. I tried the radio. Then he tried the radio to get the information from the Paris control. Paris control, can you hear me? So he tried to control to Paris control room. There was no answer. He didn't get any response from the Paris control. The radio was dead too. I had no radio, no compass, and I could not see where I was. And all the instruments which helped him to get the direction and to get the connection with the Paris control, all the instruments stopped working, and he could not find where he was. He was not able to see because everywhere it was black. I was lost in the storm. Then the narrator realized that he lost in the storm. Then in the black clouds quite near me, I saw another aeroplane. So then in the black clouds near the narrator, he saw another aeroplane. It had no lights on its wings. That aeroplane had no light on its wings. But I could see it flying next to me through the storm. But the narrator could see it flying next to him through the storm. I could see the pilot's face turn towards me, and the narrator saw the pilot's face which turned towards him. I was very glad to see another person. And the narrator was very happy to find another person in that stormy cloud. He lifted one hand and waved, "Follow me," he was saying, "follow me." And the another pilot, he lifted his hand and he was giving a signal follow me, he was saying, and he was saying to the narrator to follow him. He knows that I'm lost. I thought he's trying to help me. The another pilot thought knows that he was lost. The narrator was lost in the storm, and he was trying to help him. He turned his aeroplane slowly to the north in front of my Dakota. He turned his aeroplane slowly and bring his aeroplane in front of narrator's Dakota so that it would be easier for me to follow him, so that the narrator easily followed him. So that the narrator could easily followed him. I was very happy to go behind the strange aeroplane like an obedient child. As the narrator was very upset, he was in the frightened condition because he was completely lost in the cloudy storm. Suddenly he saw the another aeroplane and he became so happy. So I was happy to go behind the strange aeroplane like an obedient child. So he was very happy to follow the strange aeroplane like an obedient child. After half an hour, the strange black aeroplane was still there in front of me in the clouds. And after half an hour, the narrator observed still the strange black aeroplane was in front of his aeroplane. Now there was only enough fuel in the old Dakota last tank to fly for 5 or 10 minutes more. So then the narrator found that he had only a limited fuel which could fly 5 or 10 minutes more. I was starting to feel frightened again. So again the narrator started feeling frightened. He became afraid. Why was he afraid? He was afraid if the fuel would get over, so how would he fly? The plane could be crashed. But then he started to go down and I followed through the storm. But then the another pilot started going down and he followed through the storm. Suddenly I came out of the clouds and saw two long straight lines of lights in front of me. Then suddenly the narrator came out of the stormy clouds and saw two long straight lines of light in front of him. It was a runway, an airport. I was safe. So the pilot was on the airport and he was safe. I turned to look for my friend in the black aeroplane. As soon as he reached the airport, he turned back to look his friend who helped him in the stormy clouds, the black aeroplane. But the sky was empty. When he turned back, he found that there was there was no one at the back. There was nothing there. The black airplane was gone. I could not see it anywhere. So there was nothing there. There was nothing there. And the black airplane was gone and he could not see anything anywhere. And it could not see. I landed and was not sorry to walk away from the old Dakota near the control tower. As soon as the narrator landed at the airport, he moved away from the old Dakota near the control tower. He went and asked a woman in the control center where I was and who the other pilot was. So immediately he went to the woman who was sitting in the control center and he asked that woman where he was and who was the another pilot. I wanted to say thank you, and he wanted to say thank you to that pilot. She looked at me strangely and then laughed. So the woman looked at him very strangely and she started laughing. Another airplane up there in the storm. Then she surprisingly asked, another airplane up there in that storm? No other airplane were flying tonight. Then she said, no other airplanes were flying that night. Yours was the only one I could see on the radar. Then she said, The narrator's plane was the only plane which was on the sky that she could see on the radar. So, who helped me to arrive there safely without a compass or a radio and without any more fuel in my tanks? So, the narrator was surprised. He was shocked. He was asking to himself, who was the person helped him in the stormy cloud without any more fuel in my tank? Who was the pilot on the strange black aeroplane flying in the storm without light? And he asked so many questions from him to himself. So, student, this was very interesting and mysterious story. The narrator was dumbfounded as he had no explanation for the miracle who helped him to save his life. So, student, what do you think? Who was the another pilot in the stormy cloud? And was there a black aeroplane who helped the narrator? So you can give your answer in the comment box. Thank you.